We're on.
We're back.
We are on. You want to flip it around?
Yeah.
I remembered last time.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Judy.
I'm Carol.
I'm Peggy.
And we are the Wildflowers.
Yes, we are. And
We
this
are
is
Books, Booze, and Banter.
I like that.
Books, Booze, and Banter.
That's a good name for us.
Yeah.
It describes us.
Well, this is number 39. And I can't believe that we're almost coming up to a year of this.
I know.
This is pretty awesome. We have to figure something out.
Yeah, we have to pick a date to do though, because we're going to do the sunflower.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Those didn't come yet. I was going to ask you.
No, they're ordered, so
Right,
we
right.
should get them.
One of my daughters used the sunflower in her
you told me.
final project.
I love that.
They're paying attention. I'm eager to get the grade. She was doing her final project on the Nuremberg trials, and she used the book and the philosophical question as part of her oral
That's
presentation.
very. She should
I was
get an
like-
excellent grade.
She
for
really
that.
should. I was
Yeah.
like, well done. I said she's
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
and she put the book in her bibliophile, and she did this all without me because I don't get involved in my kids' homework. They do it, they do it. They don't do it, they don't do it. Whatever.
Right.
They're all on the principals list, thankfully, and they're very good. But it's like she put that in the book, cited in her bibliophile.
That's very good.
That's very, very
Now, was this
Yeah.
Daphne or Will?
I'm not saying I'm not permitted to say that.
Oh, okay.
But I was allowed to reference the story. So there we go.
okay.
But I want to
They're very strict.
Yeah, they are.
yes, that's true. I want to congratulate Deb Shaw. He was the winner of the spelling bee. The spelling bee champion. And you know, did you know?
He probably knows how to spell prerogative.
Yes, he probably does. That
P-E-R-O-G-A-T-I-V-E.
No.
It's not P-E-R?
No.
It's not
No.
P-R-E?
Yeah.
P-R-E.
P-R-E.
I just learned that this
Prerogative.
week.
yeah, I sent you the bottom
But we say prerogative.
prerogative.
It's
but we're
supposed
not
to be prerogative.
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 Well, in New York we say prerogative.
No, not all of New York. So anyway, regarding the spelling bee, there was a medal that was being searching for medal from 1908 spelling bee. And it's a 14-year-old black girl named Marie Bolden won the first national bee in the United States. And her family is looking for her award, even to this
They
day.
lost her award?
Well, they never gave it to her because she was a black girl.
No.
To compete, students first took a written spelling test of 100 words. They then spelled 400 words aloud on stage at Cleveland's Hippodrome Theater, a lavish playhouse that had opened the previous year. Among the words Miss Bolden, you'll like this. Among the words Miss Bolden spelled correctly were prejudice, persevere, misspell, and embarrass. She earned a perfect score. And but her victory caused rancor among politicians and educators, some of whom refused to accept the result because she was black.
Oh.
On the day of Miss Bolden's
So
success,
surprising, isn't
I know, really. And this was in 1908. What year are we in now?
2023.
Yeah. On the day of Miss Bolden's success, however, the convention was swept with a storm of applause, according to an article published in the Oskaloosa Herald in Iowa. Booker T. Washington, who was born into slavery and later became an educator and political advisor, was in the audience. But she never got that medal.
They never gave it to
And
her?
to this day, well, she's passed, but the family would like that medal.
Yeah, give her the damn award. Give the family the
They probably don't
award.
even know where it is.
Make one.
Yeah,
Come on.
it's because she was black. I mean, this,
Ridiculous.
yeah, this is totally. But yeah, and I have one more little story I want to share, if you don't mind.
We don't really have a choice, Carol. Go ahead.
No, really.
Well, you know the story, but about a month or so ago, I had a very vivid dream of a friend of mine from high school.
Oh, yeah.
Did I tell you that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I did tell you that.
You did, yeah.
And so I tried to track her down.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not on social media, and but somehow I was able, because her husband had passed away a year or two ago, and I was able to find her in the obituaries, and I was able to email her, but it never was responded. And then I found her home address, which is creepy, but I did, and
She's a stalker.
I was a stalker. So I sent her a real quick letter,
Yeah.
and 2 or 3 days ago she emailed me.
She
Yeah,
says,
you didn't tell me that.
"Stop stalking me."
No, she was so happy to hear from me.
Oh, wow.
She lives about an hour north of here, and so we're going to talk over the weekend, and then we're going to try to see each other.
That
and,
is wonderful.
yeah. She was actually in my bridal party. She was
Why don't
actually.
you invite her to be a guest on the podcast?
Where does she
I'm not
live?
sure that she would be comfortable.
That would be interesting.
Nyack. Yeah, well,
Long
I mean,
lost
so
friends.
it's, yeah.
We could do a podcast about
then
long
you
lost
get your
friends.
long lost friend.
You know, it's. I love that you thought about somebody, you had a dream, and then you actually took an action and
I had
did
to.
that.
But you know what's crazy? I can't even remember that dream now. I can't
That's
remember
okay.
how vivid.
But look what it did. It reminds me of a story I read years and years ago when I worked at Borders. Remember those Chicken Soup for the Soul books?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
There was
yeah.
about, now I don't know for sure if it was in one of those books, but it was in one of those type of books,
Yeah.
you know, because they were quick reads, whatever. And there was a story about this rabbi who was very popular, would speak to a lot of people, whatever, and he would always make a point of acknowledging you, taking your contact information, wherever he was. If he had always had a book with him, he would put it in there,
Wow.
and that's what he would do. And whenever he would open up something later on in life, if he came across somebody's number, he made it a point of taking that as a sign and calling them up.
Oh wow.
And one day he pulled out a book, a business card fell out, called the number, didn't know who, you know, whatever,
Yeah.
how long ago it had been in there, spoke to the person, hello friend, I haven't, you know, just wanted to see how you were doing, whatever. The man was so grateful to hear from him. He goes, I was just about to hang myself.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
wow.
I remember
Wow.
that. Like it
Wow.
was just, he was in this low place in his life and
Wow.
he was just
He-
about
he
to,
needed
Wow.
he needed some
Oh, that gave me
contact.
shivers.
Right?
Yeah.
It did.
And
It
I'm
gave me
like, I
chills.
always, so I
Yeah.
try to do that. If I find something that belongs to somebody or somebody, I'll reach out like, hey,
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
thought about you today. I found
Yeah.
this. Or, you know, hey,
Yeah.
how are you? You know, I came across your contact information. Is this still valid? It's so,
Yeah.
that story resonates with me. So
And I
much.
could have given up on
Yeah.
just the email.
Love that you did that.
But I was like, you know, there was just something about it. I just needed to read. And the last time we actually saw each other face to face was in 1983. And that was the last
That's a
time.
long
So,
time.
yeah.
Well done. I think more people should
Yeah.
do that. You know, you
Yeah.
think of somebody, let them know you're thinking of them,
Yeah.
even if
Yeah.
it's a day.
Well, that's what
Even
I
if you just send a
Oh,
text.
text. Hey,
So-
how's it going?
Right.
Or Facebook. Hey,
Uh-huh.
thought
Yeah.
about you today.
And
Yeah.
part of me was like, because she was always very quiet and reserved. I was like, maybe she doesn't even want to be reached out. But I'm like, that's okay. Then she doesn't.
Yeah.
Then she
That's
doesn't have to
right, yeah.
respond.
And but she did. So I was grateful.
Well done. I love that.
Yeah,
I think
thank you.
it would be such a better place if people did that
I know.
today.
I have a friend and she lives in Hawaii, and
Yes.
I've known her since first grade, but we became friends when we were 13. After we graduated from
Right.
8th grade, then we became very good friends. And then she moved to Hawaii, like when she was in her 20s. So I see her once in a while, but every once in a while, it's right now it's a 6-hour difference.
Oh, right.
So it's
Yeah.
hard to call each
Yeah.
other. You know, like I'm ready, like at 11 o'clock in the morning, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning there.
Ugh,
But, you
yeah.
know, like every once in a while, I'll just send her a text anyway,
Text,
saying,
that's all
hey,
good.
how you doing, Val?
Yeah.
Or,
Now, does she
you
do
know.
the same for you? Does she?
Yeah, every once
That's
in a while the
good.
phone rings and she says,
Okay.
hello, you know, so.
And it's nice to know that
Yeah.
you're remembered or that they
Yeah.
remember you.
Yeah.
That's
And that,
it.
you know,
It doesn't
just
have to be
thinking of
this big
somebody.
meaningful thing. It's
Right.
just,
Exactly.
hey, you were
Reach
thought
out.
of today.
Exactly.
You know, and that's
I
life
sent
is
her,
too short. Life is way too short.
When we did the event at the New York Public Library, remember we went into the store and they gave us the postcards?
Oh yeah.
New
yeah.
York Public Library.
Yeah.
I found it in my desk a couple of months ago. I said, I'm going to send it to Val. And I wrote out a postcard. I got this free postcard and I didn't want to throw it out. How are you
Yeah, that's
doing? You
cool.
know.
I had, that's funny because
Oh,
I
I
had
love
a
that.
stack of postcards that I had collected over the years, and
Yeah.
for about a year, I was sending them out to different people, saying, "I just got this," you know, just really.
I didn't get one either.
Well, people that I don't see.
I like to get mail.
We're not postcard worthy.
All right, I'll have to dig through my postcards. But anyway,
I am
I've taken up
song-worthy,
enough. I've taken enough time. I've got other topics, but that'll be for another. I can
Awesome.
cross this one off. Okay.
So what are we moving on to the wine?
Yeah, I mean, might as well.
I may as well. I think it's.
All right,
yeah.
so today
Would you like me
I
to pour
bought.
while you talk? Or?
I don't know a lot about
Oh, okay.
because I was at the food pantry and I didn't get home till 1:30
Peggy does
and
the
I
food
had
pantry.
to eat and I had to change my clothes and freshen up.
Where's
and
that violin you have?
I know. Well, I didn't have time to look up the wine. In other words,
Okay.
But wait.
usually I do it the night before, but.
Okay, so but you picked out the wine.
I picked out the one a long time ago
Okay.
to do
Okay.
this.
Gotcha.
So I have a Chenin Blanc.
Oh,
This
nice.
one is from France. If you remember when we had the bookstore, we served the Chenin Blanc,
Yes.
but ours was from, where was it from?
Chenin Blanc, Canada.
No, Spain. No.
South Africa. It was South
My
Africa.
mind saw an S and I couldn't remember exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, but this one is from France. So this is, it was $15.99 in total wine.
We were supposed to guess.
That's
Oh well.
okay.
Yeah.
And it's, you want to guess what's in it? I don't know.
No, guess less.
All right, it's hazelnut and pear.
Oh, I love hazelnut.
And I was reading it. It says it gives it a touch of sweetness.
Ah.
So I don't like sweet wines,
Yeah,
but I don't
do
think
I.
this is sweet. Chenin Blanc usually is not sweet.
Okay.
It's usually a light to medium-bodied white wine. So I
have a
used
lot
to
to
like.
live
Can
up
you
to.
pour and talk at the same time?
I can walk and chew gum at the same time too.
But she's not talking. She's not.
No, I'm not talking to you. Here. That's Judy's glass.
I've got mine.
Oh, wait.
Oh, this is your glass?
Yes.
How come you got the pretty engraved glass?
My God.
Okay.
Because I was trying to separate the two black rimmed ones so they wouldn't get confused.
Okay.
No,
so-
seriously, that's what I was thinking.
I tasted mine already. Sorry.
You did?
Sorry. I
Okay.
have no
All right.
patience.
Well, let's smell it first.
I did that.
It smells nice.
Well,
It
are
does
we
smell
gonna
fruity,
raise? May I
Let's
say
raise a
happy
glass.
birthday to Natasha, my
Happy
daughter,
birthday. And to my brother Drew.
and to Tate.
And to my
And to
grandson.
Tate. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
3 awesome
Happy
people.
birthdays.
Yep. That's cold.
It's very cold.
Very cold.
It's fruity. It's very
Yes.
But
fruity.
it's
Very
not
pretty.
sweet.
No, it's
No,
not.
it's
They
not
said
sweet.
just a touch of
Yeah,
sweetness.
no, it's nice.
But after M&M's, is that why it doesn't taste as sweet? We had a couple of M&M's.
You did. I had a lot of M&Ms. No, this is good. I like it.
It is very good. A Chenin Blanc.
Chenin Blanc. This one is from
Chenin Blanc.
France. It's from the Loire Valley.
Is that one of the places you're going to visit when you go to France this year?
No,
Are you
we're
going to do vineyards?
just doing Paris.
Paris.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
As long
We
as they're
just-
not protesting still in the street.
Yeah, I don't think that they are
I
right
haven't
now. I
heard
haven't heard anything, so
But then
hopefully
again,
everything
The
is nice
bouquet
and
is very
calm.
beautiful.
It is. It's very nice, and I love the
I think this is
color.
one of my favorites.
It's a pretty color.
Bouquets.
Really? Better than what we had in the last podcast?
No, I like the taste of the other one better.
Oh, but you like the bouquet of this one.
This one's very nice. The
It is
bouquet's
nice.
Yeah.
I like the taste too.
I'm not a grapist.
You know, in case you're watching this
Grapeism.
without having seen the last one, I was told I was a grapist.
No, I said that's grapeism instead of racism.
Right, because I said
Because she doesn't like white wine, she gives it a lower score.
Well,
because
you know,
it's white.
I like it now, and I hope by the end of the podcast I'll like it still.
Yeah.
Should I go on to the book?
well, are we going to give our...
Oh, our rating. I'm gonna say
I'm gonna do a
a
3.
4.
Okay.
3.
I'm
I'm surprised at that.
I thought she was going to give
But
a
she's a
higher.
big white.
No, it's I guess I could do a 3.5.
I would do a 4 because
It is
it's
good.
It's got a beautiful.
I would buy it
bouquet.
again, so
I would
that
think
says
it's
something.
sweet, but it's not sweet.
No, it's not sweet.
No, so and
I think
like
that prejudiced me against it.
I
So
think-
I'm a rapist too.
You're a rapist.
I would give it a 3.75.
Oh, even higher. than that.
Wow. Wow.
Well, because I don't want to be
Because you don't want to be.
I criticize the rapist. No, it's. I'm going to be sipping it throughout the whole podcast.
Yeah.
I love it that
I
it's
should
so
pay attention
cold.
to it. It's really. Part of me is wondering if it's so cold that that's why I'm just enjoying it.
I love cold white wine. And Jessica, my daughter Jessica, always says, your wine is always so cold in my refrigerator.
So your refrigerator just gets it naturally.
Well, because I live by myself, so it's
Right.
not open all the time. She's got kids, you know, it's
True,
yeah.
I never thought
So
of that.
my wine is always cold.
Yeah.
So,
Never thought of that.
and plus I had it tucked in the freezer for.
But you didn't like-
Yeah, you did do that.
You didn't like the red chook wine, which was served cold.
Yeah, I
You
think
prefer your red wine.
I like it room temperature.
Room temp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the same way, I think.
yeah.
Yeah, well, red wine, they say it's supposed to be slightly chilled.
Oh, excuse me.
All red wine is supposed to be slightly chilled.
Yes, not chilled like
Well, they
like
have
a
the
white
wine-
wine. They
they
have
have-
the wine coolers
Right.
for
Yeah.
for red wine, and it's just like they said if
Who's they?
well
Them?
I don't have a wine
someone
cooler.
near
No, neither
us,
do I.
and you know anybody like any of the wine
Where is our
websites. They
Judy wants a wine cooler now for her
No, I
birthday.
don't.
She just
it's
hands
too
it.
expensive.
I don't want a wine cooler. I don't have
Well, we
enough
have a
wine
year.
that ever
A
stays
year to
there.
save up.
Oh, that's
No.
true.
Yeah.
It doesn't stay there long enough.
They said that
True.
you should put it in the refrigerator for 15 minutes. I think
Red
they
wine?
said red wine.
All red wines.
Yeah,
Oh, and you would
really?
never see me
I
do
don't
that.
like that.
yeah,
I don't like that.
yeah,
I'm not doing that.
yeah. That's fine.
But are you going to do the book?
Yes, I'm going to do
Yeah,
that.
let's do
All
the
right.
book.
Let's do the book.
All right, so similar, I'm building on what you talked about last time with being a writer and how hard it is to get published. And here's an author that had a similar journey. You introduced me to this book
Right, I remember
years
that.
ago. I'm going to talk about The Stones of Summer by Dow Mossman. As you can see, it's kind of a beast of a book.
Yeah.
And I did something in the end of this book, which you guys will probably cringe about, but I don't usually do that often, and I'll tell you later. But this book, The Stones of Summer, was first published in 1972, so even before I was born. But it had...
You.
How do you like how I got that in there? Okay, so...
I was 20 years old. I was 19 years old when you were born.
Yeah, you were.
Wow. No, I was 20 years old in 1972.
Oh, yeah, 72. Well, that's when this was first published, and it had a similar
You were 17.
experience to
Yeah.
Of Little Faith, because it was with a very small publisher, and quickly, right after it was published, the publisher went bankrupt and went out of
Oh,
business.
wow. I don't know if I knew that. Maybe I
And
did.
so they didn't have publicity for the book. They didn't have any sort of, marketing for the book. I was supposed to get this up ahead of time, but what happened, which was very fortuitous, was that the New York Times did review the book. And
Which is a big deal because they get, so many requests.
right, so, and especially back in 1972 when, you didn't have the internet, you didn't
Right,
really
yeah,
have,
that's
the
true.
New York Times was such a really big deal. And they, quote, did raved at this book, that it was such a marvelous book. Dow Mossman, while he was writing the book, this was his debut novel as well, so this was his only book. And he was hospitalized during writing this, was in and out of, and after he wrote about it, I heard that he was also hospitalized in a mental institution, and I'm not surprised. So, anyway, it was out of print, and I'm just going to keep this so I know, I want to read this later, a little bit of it,
I
but
just have to say something that you just said. You said it was his first novel.
debut novel.
For how thick it is to get a first
Yeah,
novel
look
with
at
that
this.
many pages, because now it's, if you reach
Yeah,
out
in the
to
70s.
And his
it was
writing is
different,
small.
so-
But
Like, it's
when
a very
you write
small
out,
writing
when
book.
you pitch an agent or an editor, and they want to know the word count, if you're a no name,
But look how much it's changed, right?
Yeah.
Maybe in that time.
Yeah.
So Carol, when she was, I went to go visit her, she showed me a documentary called The Stone Reader, and that came out in 2002. And it was by this man who was a big fan of this book called Mark Moskowitz, who was trying to revive the book. And Steve Riggio, who was the CEO of Barnes & Noble, did see that documentary. And to his credit, he tracked down a copy of the book. He paid $1,775 for the book to read it. And after that, he decided to republish it through Barnes and Noble. And well, it says Overlook Press here in 2004.
Okay.
I think that must be, who knows, but maybe something.
Overlook it is a traditional publisher.
Maybe he got them the deal.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he carried it in Barnes and Noble. I bought this in Barnes and Noble in Boston after I read it. So this came out in 2004. He has been compared to Faulkner, to Salinger, to James Joyce, and to Mark Twain.
Wow.
And reading this, I read all of those authors, and I completely agree. But in a way, he's also very unique. This book is broken up into three parts, and it's really a coming of age novel. So you first meet the main character, which has been said is kind of autobiographical. I can believe that because his name is Dawes Oldham Williams, D-O-W. Dow is his name. Okay,
Wow.
so the first part, he's about 8 or 9 years of age, and you meet him there, and he's dealing, with a very kind of family issues, dysfunctionality, right? Then you meet him part 2, where he's through his adolescence years, very rebellious, hooks up with these very rowdy, lawlessness kind of behavior there. The end of that part 2, there's a big tragedy that happens there. Very, very tragic, which would affect anybody, and that sets the stage for the part 3 of the book, where he's now, in his 20s. The first 2 parts, I want to say, take place in America, in Iowa. The third part takes place in Mexico. Okay, so that's the backdrop for the third part. And he's broken, he's ragged, he is just destroyed, I think, in every sense of the way. And although they don't say it, and I didn't realize it, it's a hard book to read, but I did read. Now, this was before I had kids, and
Right.
I was working full time, but I had a lot of commute time, and I read it a lot on the trains, as I was living in Boston, and bus lines and all that. It's a hard book to read, like a James Joyce, or even Faulkner, who I'm not a big fan of, but I have read him. But if you can get through it, it's beautiful. I mean, it is a masterpiece, and I would love more people to be able to read it and to become familiar with it. I think
Is it still in print?
Yeah. I think this is, from the beginning to the end, the development to the end of somebody with schizophrenia. And I think this gets you right in the end. I don't know if I'm right, but I really do think that's what it's like to be in the mind of it. And that's the closest I could think of. And so when I finished it, and and I don't know which one to read first. Okay, but let me I know it's going to, but this is not going to be long, but this is the end of the book. And it goes, is there a moral to this story? This is the New York Times review in 1972. Is there a moral to this story, this magical tale of rolling stones and singing stones, stone tongues and stone lights, the stone fishing in America? I don't know. And even if I did, I wouldn't say. Let me conclude rather with something by way of tribute to this very talented writer, an invocation of that moment of absolute silence that follows when you have finished the last chapter, paragraph and word of a book which you greatly admire, and set it aside so as to hear your own inner echoes, the dying chord of sympathetic response.
Wow.
And
we've all had that feeling too, when you close that book, a book that you love.
And you just sit there. And that happened to me with this book. I just read this review this week as I was preparing for today, which reminded me of what I did. I finished this book, and I was so compelled to write in the book. And I know you don't, some of you don't write in books.
I don't mind.
But look what I did. And here it is. And this is, just to let you know, I did write in this book. And this was dated January 2006.
Wow.
And I wrote, I love this book, and finished it perfectly. Just like the main character, I lost Dawes Williams in pieces. He began to die as I rode the Silver Line from work. He died while I was on the Red Line, and his spirit left while I was arriving at my destination from the Orange Line. I wouldn't have changed it. It was the perfect way to conclude. Fantastic liquid poetry.
Wow. No, very nice review.
It was the best thing to
Yeah.
lose. I mean, as you can tell, you lose the character, but he dies from the beginning. He's dying from the beginning to the end in pieces, and I think
Yeah.
that's what the illness does to somebody.
Yeah.
And he did it so. It is a masterpiece. It's really tough, but you will be rewarded to read it.
How many pages?
Don't get intimidated.
All right, I'm
by-
gonna say 703.
Okay, no, I don't think it's that much. No, it's 586,
Oh,
but it's tiny.
Tiny,
Like
tiny print.
Tiny print.
So you would probably be
let me
right.
see. Let me
Yeah,
see if
yeah.
I can read it.
But I have
Yeah.
to say, I think
That's not that tiny.
it looks tiny.
It looks
to
tiny.
me.
It's tiny for me.
I have some books that my mom had, and she wrote in certain parts of it, and I cherish that. Your girls, eventually,
Maybe.
that will be something for them. to
I'm
share.
not anti-writing in books. I'm anti-dog
Dog.
earing.
Oh, I do that too. I do that too.
And spilling water on them.
Oh, I do that
It's
too.
like borrowing a book from your mom and spilling water all over it, Samantha.
I don't. Oh, I was like, where was this going?
And-
As long as someone's reading it, I'm just
Yeah.
grateful that it's being read.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
this book, I don't know what happened to it. I mean, if it's still getting publicity, and I heard I heard he's writing again. The person, Mark Moskowitz, found him, and he got he started writing it. He was like rejuvenated. He was working at like a regular old job, labor, and it encouraged him to write again because he started believing. I hope he is.
Does he live in the U.S.?
Yes.
Or?
Yes. So I love the book.
Well, I want to
Loved
say thank you to Steve Riggio because I
Yeah.
think
I had to give that a
he's
shout out.
what
Yeah.
made this find a home and find readers. Because otherwise, I don't think, because there's no way the New York Times would review it otherwise.
Nowadays, no, and that's why I said,
Well, even then.
Even back then,
Oh,
Steve
it's
Riggio
Steve
probably made that happen.
Yeah.
but no, not in back in that review was from 1972 when it first came out.
Oh, so, but the,
Oh, he revived it in the 2000s.
Oh,
yes,
So,
yeah.
all right,
no.
never mind, Steve.
Oh, sorry,
Never mind.
no. Steve Riggio does his day because he revived it to bring it now.
Right,
Oh,
right.
But in
all right.
19, that's why I'm sorry if I miss.
No,
No, you didn't.
In
No, it was the
1972, he got a New York Times review, a debut novel. In 1972, got a New York Times
very
review
impressive.
and an excellent review. It's still available. You can
Yeah.
read it. It's long. It was an excellent review.
Wow.
And to compare it to Faulkner, to James Joyce,
Right.
to J.D. Salinger, to Mark Twain, I get,
Wow,
and the first section is probably more Faulknerish, the middle is just probably Joyce,
Wow.
the last part is definitely Twain,
Yeah.
But it's like to encompass, but yet it's still Dow Mossman throughout. Like it's a unique voice that's kind of weaving this all together. It's
Stones of
I
Summer.
haven't read anything really
Wow.
like this in a
Wow.
long time. And it's so good, and I'm glad I got to do it. I'm almost done with another book, so I wasn't ready, but this one I've been waiting to pull off and give a review to everybody. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's very, very intriguing. Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
you're welcome.
So
So,
what do we got?
my turn to do the subject.
Yes.
So, this is actually when we had our book club, before we had the bookstore, we had time. We did a book that was Teresa recommended. It was called Necessary Lies by Diane Chamberlain. It was a work of fiction, but it was based
Great
on true story.
Yeah.
And I did not realize the truth in that. It's about eugenics. So I did some research because I'm like, it's so interesting how so many people don't want the government involved with their bodies and, with, terminating, a pregnancy and all this stuff. But back in the day, there was the government that got involved, and it was where they had young girls, they would have them fixed, or they would
Sterilize.
yes,
Sterilize
yeah.
them. Yeah.
sterilize them because they did not want them to procreate. So
Kind of like
Not
the
just-
opposite
and see,
of what's going on.
But not just any girls.
right,
It was-
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it
right.
wasn't.
It was poor people, black
Uneducated.
people, uneducated people.
Right.
American eugenicists from a variety of disciplines declared certain individuals unfit feeble-minded, or antisocial, which resulted in the involuntary, that's the key word here, involuntary sterilization of at least 60,000 people
60,000.
through 30 states' laws by the 1970s, which was stunning to me. And so, I was thinking about this topic. So,
Excuse me 1 second. Was this the novel that we read about the
Yes.
eugenics?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Necessary Lives.
Oh, okay.
yeah, that's one that Teresa had recommended. So that's what that was.
They were poor
Right.
sisters.
Yeah, they were
living
poor white people.
white people.
Yes,
rural,
but not
right,
only that,
rural,
one
yeah.
of them was a little mentally.
mental issues.
Yeah, exactly. So while eugenics movements especially flourished during the 3 decades before the end of World War II, eugenics practices such as involuntary sterilization, forced institutionalization, social ostracization, I can talk,
Big words
and
today.
and stigma were common in many states until at least the 1970s, which still amazes me, and in some instances have continued into the present in various forms. And I was thinking about that, and all right, so some of the questions are, part of me, sometimes if I had, all right, there's that show, I forget the name of the show, where special two mentally challenged a couple can get married. Would you be okay with them if the girl got pregnant and was to have a baby?
Sure.
It's not my business.
Yeah.
Really? See, I have an issue with that. I have, like, if you're not capable of raising this child on your own, that to me,
But we have processes in place
That's right.
for that.
Exactly.
And what way?
There's social services that they can intervene. I've seen a couple of shows where they have episodes and they bring that up.
Right.
Like, because, they get married, the couple,
Right.
and they want to have a baby.
Right.
And yes, they're going to need more support than maybe somebody else. But that
Right.
still doesn't mean that we could say, no, you're not allowed to have a child.
so, I don't know. I'm still on the fence about it. I've got to be honest with you. I feel like, I don't know.
Isn't that more of a moral decision, though,
for who?
for you?
For the person.
For who telling them they can't
Well,
have
I
it?
That sounds like a religious right attitude.
Or just
don't know. I wanted this discussion
Yeah.
because even when I was reading Necessary Lies, and I felt like that girl was so poor. I was like, you're bringing another human being into this world that you cannot take care of. And I know you're saying, well, there's social services, but they don't always come through. They don't always,
Well, it happens every day here in our country.
with drug,
not
addicted parents.
even
Yeah.
just parents that are very poor and maybe they're not using birth control and they have a lot of children. But how could you step in and say no? You're not allowed to have this. That's China. Like, no more children for you. I mean, you can't do that.
No, and this is what I wanted the discussion to be about because I don't know.
I
feel-
think
Well, what
people
do you-
should be more cognizant of that, like, oh, okay, like I have 3 kids.
But they're not. That's the
But what
thing.
is your hesitation
Yes,
based
education.
upon, Carol? You're
Right.
hesitant of what are you basing the hesitation on
That
the
you're gonna-
resources, on the person, on morals, or
Not morals.
Okay,
No,
what is it?
more the fact bringing another child into this world and not raising it to not being equipped to know how to raise that child, and that child is going to suffer because you have this, whether you're totally don't have the funds to raise a child or you don't have the mental capacity to raise a child.
Well, we do
I
know that-
understand that,
Yeah.
but so what do you think the solution is? Are you gonna?
No, not
you know-
force. No, not force. But as if I were like, let's say if I had a special needs daughter, I would sit down and talk to this child. And if she was going to marry somebody, I'm like, I'm not going to help you raise your child. So, and I don't know that they would be even capable, oh yeah, I'm gonna have a baby, oh yeah, no, there's like, although, now it just popped in my head, that movie with Sean Penn, when he had a little girl, what was it, Sam?
Dakota Fanning.
Yeah, and his name was Sam, I Am Sam.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, I really love that movie, and I know that he was special needs, and she ended up taking care of him.
The thing is, there are all degrees of special needs as well.
Right.
And I think we all, I think it's easy to overgeneralize and to say, and also there are families with special needs that are more involved and more willing to be involved, and some that aren't willing to be involved. Just like there are people who are not special needs who also don't have the money or the emotional wherewithal to be a parent, regardless of their special needs.
Exactly.
And look at all the crack babies that are born.
Exactly. Or alcoholics or whatever. And so we have to, I get very, the hair kind of stands up in the back of my neck when we just kind of talk about the potential of not letting certain groups of people.
Oh, right.
And you can't have sterilization.
Without it, we do, as Peggy pointed out, we do have social services. Yes, it's a resource issue, but there's not one, in my mind, one size fits all.
Right.
And also, if you're a parent, like say if I were a parent of a special needs person, and they're an adult, they fall in love. They're like everybody else. They meet somebody, they fall in love, they want to have a family. If I didn't think that person was capable, I would encourage them not to do that and to use birth control, or maybe, agree to be sterilized so that they could have a healthy sex life and a happy marriage without the burden of having a child.
Right.
But I wouldn't force that on anybody either.
And I'm not talking really necessarily forcing it, but I do feel like it's, and again, it has nothing to do with race, because I know Hitler was very big on the eugenics and, getting rid of the race, the Jewish race, and that is not what this discussion is about at all. It's more the people that aren't equipped to have a child, to make our society a better society. And I know that that's a problem. That phrase itself is, a problem. But
yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, I knew you wouldn't like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So what's this note? The majority.
Well, I think people have to just be more responsible.
Well, it's easy to say
but they're not.
Exactly.
And so what do you do about it?
I mean, because then you're just saying somebody with a certain IQ level lower. Okay, automatically we're gonna say you can't, but yet, all right, you person who lives in a rich
a nice house in the suburbs,
but is a cocaine addict and
I know. Well, you can deal with it. At least you're making some money.
I don't agree with that either. Or it'll work. Or I think that's a very dangerous mentality.
I guess I was looking more at the family in the Necessary Lies book, and that little girl, and that.
That was a good book discussion read.
What they did to her was totally wrong, because they lied to her and they had her, forced sterilization, and she had no idea.
Yes, I remember.
And that upset me greatly.
Yes.
And yet, but part of me was like, but what if she were to get pregnant? What if she were? What would happen to that baby? Because
maybe the family. I think what would have happened, the family would have given it up for adoption.
But back then, there was a lot of orphanages during that time. That was the time, and kids just didn't get into homes. And again, it's just something I struggle with, and I didn't know where the two of you were going to fit.
Yeah,
in
it's a good topic.
But it's and I have so many notes, but it's like. So the questions was, what are the negatives? All right, let me put this out there. What are the negatives of eugenics?
I think everything about eugenics is a negative.
Okay.
It's horrible. I mean, and we did it. We have a history of it.
It is
especially with African American women and poor whites.
Right.
And in the South, it was very prevalent. Well, it was all over. It wasn't only in the South.
But
plus, African American women were also experimented on and given hysterectomies and, like,
Now that's a really good point, because that did come up, I think, in the
Yeah.
book, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that in the
I
book?
think so, yeah.
If I recall,
Yes.
and to be used as experiments, and even
I thought
back,
it was under the men context. I think men. I could be
Yeah.
wrong. Yeah.
and even like that's what Hitler did too, was the experiments. And
Yep.
it didn't even matter.
I just think my negative would be that it seems like there are permanent decisions being made on moral grounds of,
All right, let
of
me ask
somebody's
you this.
perception of who should be a parent.
well,
And
to
not
me,
why not.
it's the same as saying that a woman can't have an abortion.
Yes.
It's that you're making that decision
On
for that woman. You are
moral
forcing her to have a child.
Because they believe that in their belief system that life starts.
Right. Which
At
is,
conception.
again, it was a government thing, and now this is a government thing today,
Yeah.
which is, like you said, this
Yeah.
is the
Right.
opposite.
But at conception of you can't sustain life outside of the womb
Right.
at
That's right.
that time.
Right.
But yet there's a moral belief that's based
Yeah.
heavily upon Christianity
Well,
Right.
that life is created, at conception.
and that's why we have separation of church and
Right,
state.
and that's why this
And
law
it's
law
not
building
being
laws
respected.
based upon
It's
this is
not
being
being
respected.
respected.
Not at
and
all.
that
No,
goes
exactly.
that's actually anti-American.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Because America was started to try to get away from government built on religion.
Right.
And this was supposed to be a country built on separation
and
of
less government,
religion.
and that's why the Republican
Yes.
Party that is so
It's-
pro-life,
Yeah. It's a
you know,
contradiction.
it is. It's
kind of,
hypocritical. It's what it
and
is.
again, I'm not saying you cannot believe what you want to believe, but just
But
do
don't
not
impose your beliefs on
put
everyone.
it into law.
Right.
That's right.
Because laws are different from religion.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, like if you had a friend or a child or a sister or a woman that you love that wanted to have an abortion and you really didn't want them to, then you could, that's your personal,
Absolutely.
yeah, in your personal relationships, you could try and guide them through it.
Right.
But the government has no right
Right.
to force a woman
Well,
to carry a child.
Okay, then let me ask you this then. Let's say, not even the government, but let's say as a parent of a special, an intellectually disabled child, would you sneak birth control pills into their diet?
I don't think I would,
don't think I
Carol.
would.
I really don't think I would do
I don't
that.
think I would either.
No.
So, okay, all right. I'm just trying, this is a big topic, and,
You know, it would be like, in my case, it would be like, this is the reality of you having a child. So, like, you have to have those conversations with that person if you
Right.
think that they really would struggle with it. You know, let them see reality, but to even sneak birth control or anything?
Right, that's
no,
what
I
I'm just
wouldn't.
asking.
No, I
That's-
would not. I would not.
what about you?
My answer sitting here, I'm not a parent of an intellectually disabled child,
Right.
so I understand I don't have that life experience, but
Right.
I don't think I would, but I'm never one to never say never. I've done some
Right.
things that I said I would never do, and I've
Right.
done them,
Right,
at
right,
the same
right.
time. So, but I think there's ways you can talk to children at different ages, and some child who may be physically
An
older
adult,
but
yeah.
have an intellectuality of someone younger. I think there's probably a way you can speak to them at the same time, but mindful that's not always going to happen, and you have to. I'm assuming if you're a parent, you've contemplated what would
Right,
happen, and
exactly.
maybe that means
It's a big topic.
it's not an easy answer. It's
No.
Yeah.
definitely not, and there's a way you can go. I'm
And
struggling
I think
with
it's
it.
a very personal
Yeah.
thing too within your family.
yes, and
Certainly
and how,
not a place for the government to
Right.
interfere
and
with
I
it.
that's what I'm
totally
saying.
agree with
It's
that.
a family. There's like this. I could be a mother. Maybe I'm a single mother or a widow, and I'm making
Right.
this decision, and I'm living on food stamps, or I maybe have more of a financial means. I've got a supportive spouse. There's different ways you're going to approach them. So I think think it's hard to say, government, step in and take this choice away from us.
Yeah,
And based upon what you perceive as an acceptable way to know. But then again, it just popped in my mind. I haven't thought this all through, but I mean, under our law, we do have the standard of declaring somebody mentally incapable of doing a crime, or mentally, of being mentally incapable of an adult, or declaring vice versa, declaring a juvenile of the mental capacity of an adult if they do something.
Exactly, yeah.
So it works both ways. So perhaps, I mean, I'd have to do more research into that, 'cause criminal law is not my forte, but I mean, it's just, perhaps there's some sort of rationale to that if they make that law, but I think it would really have to incorporate intense psychological, scientific, and medical, independent medical decisions and opinions, not just we just think everybody, maybe testing.
Well, this is when I was doing the research for this article. This came up. It says a new report shows that 31 states and the District of Columbia have laws allowing permanent forced sterilizations, and that's disturbing. Little discussed and largely unmonitored, the issue grabbed national attention last summer when the pop star Britney Spears testified that she was forced to use birth control by her father.
Yeah.
While Spears was not subject to surgical sterilization, her testimony started a conversation about reproductive rights and conservatorship.
Yeah. So he was able to do that because he had conservatorship.
Right. But now he doesn't anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But if you see videos of her now, she is off the charts, wacko. I mean, for lack of a better term, like she just, it's disturbing. But does that mean that we should control her reproductive rights?
No, it doesn't.
But
It
again,
doesn't.
I guess I look.
And I know that there are women who shouldn't have children.
Right.
I know that there are.
And
but-
men.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You know, like the man isn't innocent bystander in any of this.
Exactly.
You know, there's birth control that men could use also.
There's somebody having sex with Britney Spears, even though she's clearly,
Exactly.
in a
Well, it's
unstable way.
I get these flashes. I just had a memory of when I was upstate. I'll say upstate, and this man was driving in his truck with a beer in one hand and his 2-year-old child sitting on his lap, driving the truck, driving around, and you
I
could
guess.
tell. Yeah, he was definitely inebriated, and I'm like, who gives this man a right to do that?
Do you want some of this?
No, Brett, thanks.
And again, I'm thinking, not everyone should have kids.
Yeah.
That was
not everyone should have kids.
but they do, and it's
But-
and I know it's it gets very prickly because you don't want the government making that decision.
Yeah.
But and you know when it boils down to education, I think you even made a comment before.
I did, and it does boil down to education, and it boils down to, easy access to birth control also.
Right.
Which is under
And
assault in the
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing, under assault.
yeah, and the government is it's
Uh-huh.
okay that the government's getting involved with that now.
But men can have vasectomies. I think I mentioned that before.
Right, right,
That's
right.
never
And
mentioned.
they could use Viagra too.
Viagra. We don't limit access to those.
No,
No,
if men were the child bearers, it would be a whole different story, wouldn't
We
it?
wouldn't
Yeah.
have this conversation.
Yeah.
For sure.
No.
But I mean, it's a very good topic, Carol, and it's a very interesting one.
And I have so much that I printed out, but
Please
it's
do,
like
talk,
it's all repetitive in a way. It's just like. And again, and I know that you two are appalled with me.
No, we're not.
we're not
at
appalled
all.
with you.
No, this is. No, it's.
No, I
interesting.
guess because I really do think every child born into this world should be a child that's wanted, but should be cared for properly.
Of course they should, but that isn't the way the world, and it never has been the way
No,
of the
it
world.
never. No.
You know,
If we
through
did,
history.
we probably wouldn't have masterpieces like Dow Mossman.
That's right.
Summer. I mean, there's no, seriously, like it's characters like you write through pain, you write through experience.
Right,
Not that it's,
right.
but I mean, ideally, I think you
Right,
would want everybody to have that, but it's
You see children
not fair.
abused, and that just
Yeah.
makes me crazy.
I know, and so many kids in the foster care system.
Yeah.
I still can't.
And
get
then
that
foster
deep,
parents
so.
that are
Oh, yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. What, say it again?
I said, and the foster care system is pretty terrible too.
And it's gonna get
I mean,
worse.
people do it for money.
It's going
You
to
know.
get worse
I
because
mean, my sister Pat has adopted so many kids, like crack babies, and
Oh,
you know, because she worked in that system and she came
Yeah.
across these kids, you
Pat.
know, that
Well, I strongly encourage people to read Necessary Lies by Diane Chamberlain because
Yes.
it does bring up a very interesting.
Oh,
Again,
very good book.
I don't know
But
why
that
I
took
didn't.
place in like the 1930s or something, did it? Or
No, I think it was 50s.
50s.
The
Yeah, I think it was
50s,
later.
yeah.
than
I
that.
could be wrong, but I feel like that was, but yeah,
Yeah.
but I guess I was horrified to learn that because I knew what Hitler did. I knew about that, but I didn't know in the United States of America.
No, you're
well,
right.
that's
because
part of our hidden history that they
Exactly.
try to keep away
we
from
read
us.
that book as part of our book group before, and you're right because I was reading it and I remember this is a few years ago, and I remember looking it up
Yeah.
because I was like, is this true? Did this really?
Right.
And yes,
Yeah.
it did happen. And I
Yeah.
was really surprised
Yeah.
because I never knew about that part of
We
it.
weren't, yeah, and
Yeah.
that would be something again that they don't teach in school.
Yeah. And
Right.
now they're banning books that tell the truth about our history
Yeah.
and about racism.
Somebody might be
and-
offended if they walk in and see
It'll
Necessary
make
Lies.
someone be uncomfortable.
So maybe Necessary Lies will be taken off the shelves.
Yeah.
Not that we're
let's-
advocating that. It's
yeah.
a very good book. Please read it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
We're not advocating
Yeah.
that,
No.
but it's just from our last podcast, like Peggy was talking about.
You know, book banning.
Right.
And it's just
Really
just-
interesting. I mean, you could go. I could see something like this though stretching into like. Then do you have people who are blind? Don't raise children because what if they
Yeah.
can't see?
You know,
their
you're
kid around
deaf,
the door or
you know.
hear.
Call
Right.
the Midwife had an episode
Yes.
about that.
Yeah, it
Call
did.
the-
You're right.
Call
Good
the
show. We love that show.
Yeah, absolutely. And but it was very interesting. And the one sister did not want the other sister to have the baby because she was blind. And,
Yes.
and it did show some issues that was a problem.
Absolutely.
But
How did you feel about that?
I was rooting for the blind woman, obviously. Yeah, I really was. I was like, no, she's figuring it out. You know, how to
They
take it.
dealt also kind of with this topic with
Yes.
Reggie and
Yes.
Reggie, and when there was a Down syndrome children or mentally
Yes.
handicapped when they went to the orphanage and they were romantically involved.
Yes,
And
yes.
they did deal with that
Yeah.
topic.
I've seen a couple of shows where they dealt with that,
Yeah.
you know, in the past. That
Right.
you know mentally, handicapped people who got into a relationship and wanted to have a family and they wanted to be married and like the parents trying to manage that.
Right.
And it's not an
It's not
easy
easy.
thing,
But
but
what you just said makes family, not
your
the government.
family has to manage it.
But
It
not
has-
the government.
Exactly.
The government,
Right.
because that's and I think that's what crossed my mind was like the government was involved with this, and the government is involved with now with abortions, and government. It's just such a contradiction, and it's just
The biggest contradiction is that the Republican Party stands for less government.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's so
Well
it's,
said.
it's such a joke. It really
Wake
is.
up, Republican.
What is-
Well, what do you folks think about this topic? We'd love to hear from you. For the few of you that are watching us.
No,
we're having
Yeah,
fun.
right time.
No, we are getting some more subscribers.
Yes.
They are subscribing.
Thank you very much, and watching us. Appreciate it.
We really appreciate it, and I feel Peggy's edging off her seat already. I feel like she's leaving. She's leaving. But
Bye.
so the next topic is going to be what's
See ya.
the next topic is going to be a little bit more lighthearted, right?
I think it's my topic, and should I commit now? Because I might change my mind.
Well, don't commit. Just say it might be.
All right, I'm thinking I might just kind of be into the what are we reading, what are we watching,
That's
okay.
television or movies or stuff like that,
Yeah.
and just
Okay,
kind
that's
of keep it light.
hard this time of year. First of all, with the writers' strike
Yeah.
and the
No.
summer, all the
Right.
shows have ended.
I
So
know.
we
I
can
might
help
discourage
each
her.
other. No.
I might change my
No,
mind. We
it's
have a
good
lot going
because
on.
we can help each other say, what the hell am I going to watch now
Right.
at night?
No, I already
So-
started a list thinking.
My
about it.
topics have lately been very serious, so I
Yeah,
thought I
let's
would
do
a
something
little light.
lighthearted. Yeah.
But, no promises.
Yeah, actually, I
in.
have a show I just finished
All you see
watching
is
that I would
Peggy's
recommend.
arms moving on the
Hi, Lacey.
Good
morning.
And
No? Is
I
this still
don't
going?
know.